pace. And if you are unable to catch up with them, you always end up you losing quite a lot of things. I'm not saying that publish uncooked research. It should be well done. It should be well done, but it requires a lot of political aspects to it. Sometimes it's counted as your new job, that how many publications you have. You are working in academia, then always, at least in Pakistan, this, there is a restriction of the number of publications in scientific journals, in research journals, that's required. So keep that in mind, that you have to do this. Moreover, research is also about winning the grants. It's not always about just sitting in the lab and doing some experiments, but it requires a lot of reading, a lot of writing grants, and having keep a very direct and close contact with the audit at your university, and its office of research at your university. There are designated people there who can guide you to how to write grants, and they can help you out with by lobbying as well with the grant sources, and help you out with winning the grants as well. So you should know this research is something that requires a lot of money too. So it's not something that you can do it without money. So keep that in mind. There is this economic aspect to it. So I'll stop here, and I'll pass it over to Dr. Saqlain, who is here with us. And Dr. Saqlain will be talking about AI and research and global mindset of research. So over to you, Dr. Saqlain.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Sharoon, for the insightful discussion. I want to share a screen. Can you see my screen? Okay, so I'm told to demonstrate about the artificial tools for efficient literature review for reading and writing. I gave some briefs about how can we efficiently use certain artificial tools for reading in my previous session. Okay, so I begin with typeset.io. It is a very good tool for research reading particularly. You open this website, you open this tool, and suppose you got a research paper and you want to do certain things, like you want to summarize certain sections of that paper, you want to simplify certain portions. The technical language of research papers is sometimes not readable for the new researchers, and it becomes very tough for them to understand the technical formal content of that paper. So this tool actually gives an option that you just select a paragraph from the uploaded PDF file that you have uploaded a research paper, and you just right click on it, do it, summarize, and it will summarize you. You can summarize the entire paper, you can summarize only the abstract, or you can summarize a certain paragraph. It will, and then there is another option that you can provide, you can explain it in very simple words without any technical and formal jargon, which is very readable and which is easily understandable by the new researchers. So it can explain any parts of a paper in plain, easy language. You can find similar research articles, which is a great challenge, particularly for those who are using only the Google Scholar, because in Google Scholar, for a single query, it generates output in millions, and you're not sure that which articles to start with, which articles to read. So this tool is a very good one, and you just there's an option that you can find the similar research articles about that paragraph or about that article. Then you can create a library and save it, and that library of the research articles that can be exported to Zotero, EndNote, and Mendeley, all these reference management tools. The next tool that I suggest is RDiscovery. It is available on the Play Store of Apple and Android. You can use it on your phone. It is also available on Microsoft Play Store. It also does some similar kind of things like typeset.io. it can search a similar, and both of these are absolutely free. You can just sign up and start using it instantly. You can search similar articles. You can create a library, and then you can export that library to Zotero and Note and Mendeley. And the interesting part is that you are just lying on your bed and you don't want to read, you don't want to go to the screen. All you have to do is you can listen to any part of the paper. Just select it, click on it, and it will start reading it. It will, you can listen to with the, you don't want to read it, it's okay, you can listen to it in any language. You can listen into Urdu, into Persian, into French, into German language. So this is how it is efficient. Then there are some other tools also, like Scholarcy, a Semantic Scholar, a Paper Digest, RX. These are the best ones that I'm showing you on the screen. Elicit. These have different features. Without taking more time, you can go to each of them and you can explore some of them. Some features of them are paid, some features are free to use, and you can use them. So I always say that in order to become a very good writer, first you have to become a very good reader. And artificial intelligence has made the things very easy and very efficient for us. It saves a lot of time. Instead of reading the entire paper, which may take several hours, all you have to do is you can use these tools, go straight to a particular section. For example, it is materials and methods. Just click on it and it will tell you all the things that you want. And the most interesting thing about this particular tool, this typeset.io, is that on the right side of the screen, you will find a chat bot actually. It is a kind of a bot that you see in the chat GPT or the bin chat. You can ask it questions. You give it certain questions and it will answer you. It will give you the reply like the chat GPT does. You can ask any technical questions. You can ask any question that you think. It has by default certain 12 to 15 questions, and then you can create your own query and it will respond to those queries from within that PDF file that you have uploaded. For the reading, this artificial intelligence is a very good one. But unfortunately, for writing, it is overrated. Most of the times we hear that ChatGPT, people are using ChatGPT, but it is not easy one, because ChatGPT and all these AI tools, they have limited, there are certain limitations in which they can create content. The content that they create or the way they analyze, that is mostly superficial. That is mostly the generalized information that they create. And they do not create a focused line. They do not give you the focused, the most up-to-date information. Like ChatGPT generates fake citations. It is well known. That is the reason that it discourages people from using it frequently. It generally, for general search purposes, for language setting, to improve the language, these tools are very good ones, but you cannot entirely rely on these tools, because as for this moment, these tools are not as intelligent as human brain is, because these are known for changing the context. If I start with Grammarly, as the name suggests, it is the world's top AI tool that is used for language setting, for grammar, to fix the grammatical mistakes, to improve the language. It has a free version, it has a paid version, but I use it every day, and I know that I cannot believe, I cannot trust it entirely by 100%, because I see it giving me wrong suggestions, giving me suggestions which are out of context. It is changing the context. I see it every day. So you have to keep your eyes open, and you have to be careful while implementing their suggestions. Similarly, Quillbot is a very good tool, particularly for paraphrasing. It can paraphrase in different writing styles. It can generate formal language. It can generate technical language, creative language. It can enhance the number of words. It can reduce the number of words. There are different features in Quillbot. And this is particularly important for those who want to reduce the similarity index for the Turnitin. In other words, if you want to minimize the thing like plagiarism, or if you want to reduce the similarity index, Quillbot is a very good tool. But again, you will have to be very careful. You will have to revise and review with your own brain. You're going to trust it entirely, because it will change the context. And then ChatGPT, as we know all, it is a very good one, particularly for generating the general kind of formats for writing stuff. It can also it actually depends on what kind of instructions you are giving. ChatGPT is an excellent tool, but you first need to understand the art of making it work for you. So you need to learn how to use it. You use this ChatGPT for your purposes, and more you learn, more you can get out of it. But again, you cannot entirely rely on these tools, and you have to be very careful. You should use them, it definitely save your time, but you have to be careful that they always change context, because they are not as efficient at this state as a human brain is. So that's it from my side for AI tools, and then I will contribute later on when there are question answer sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saqlain. Now I would like to request Dr. Venkat to please share his thoughts on these topics. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sharoon. I must say, I personally learned a lot from Saqlain's presentation. So thank you to you as well. Now, what I plan to do is, I'm not going to use any PowerPoint slides, but I'm planning to speak extempore for about 10 to 12 minutes, as I was instructed by Dr. Ruxana. And then, of course, we'll have some Q&A. So my focus is going to be on essentially on managing research and also finding outlets for research. My background is both as a researcher who publishes in journals, but also as the editor of at least one peer-reviewed journal, and that is the Roundtable, the Commonwealth Journal of International Affairs. So I'm going to focus on those two broad aspects. I start with some comments on what is your research story. That's a question which I think every researcher needs to ask before he or she begins to put things down in writing. So you need to think about the wider context of your research. For example, how does your work relate to a current hot topic if you are planning to write on something contemporary? Also, what's the truly original nature of your results, to the extent that you're able to foresee those results? And no less important is for you to ask yourself, how and why is your work new and interesting? Because obviously, unless you make it interesting, there is not going to be an audience for your work. Also, what's new and challenging about the outcomes of your study? Sometimes you may have to ask another question, which is, are you providing a solution to a difficult problem? Very often that may not arise because you are not at all in the business of providing a solution, much less in the process of identifying a difficult problem. And then, of course, one other question which tends to be asked is, are you challenging or adding to work which has already been undertaken? And if so, how? And sometimes you may have to ask another question, how robustly? So these are the sort of things that before you begin to write a research paper, it is worth asking. And then, of course, when you come to the ingredients of a good research paper, there are certain things which are worth keeping in mind. You need to, first of all, understand your task, your assignment, in its entirety. You have to look at all reasonable angles to the topic that you're writing about. And of course, even as far as the choice of topic is concerned, in other words, choosing the topic is concerned, you have to be quite careful. You need to look at relevance, feasibility, and also attractiveness. Clearly, you'll need to conduct extensive preliminary research on all these aspects, even if that research takes up a lot of time. And then, of course, there's a backbone to your research article, which is your thesis statement. What is it that you are trying to hang your research article on? So that is extremely important. And naturally, of course, you would create a research paper outline, which will save you a lot of time later because it will allow you to develop your thoughts in a structured and comprehensive manner. And of course, it's always helpful to put together a draft of the research paper, however rough that draft might be, because it can be polished later on. And very important from the point of view of attracting audiences is to have a catchy introduction. If you make the introduction very boring, then there's a possibility, I would say even a probability, that many readers will be turned off even before they go into the second paragraph. So a catchy introduction is very important. And of course, you will have to write a compelling body of text in very clear language. Do not proceed on the basis that by using difficult words, you are exhibiting scholarship, because it is possible for a genuinely learned person to put his thoughts in simple language. And of course, you can edit your draft as many times as necessary till you're fully satisfied. Very often, you would share your draft with colleagues for their opinions. And that, of course, also helps in refining your paper. In terms of what you do with the manuscript itself, first of all, you need to have a very clear message, a message that is clear, useful, exciting, etc. And it is also something which conveys the author's thoughts in a logical manner so that the reader is on the same wavelength as the author. Then, of course, there is this your format, and that will, of course, depend on the journal that you are aiming to publish your article in. And so there is not that much freedom, but sometimes there is a lot of freedom. So it all depends on the context. Don't forget that the title of the article is very important. Again, make it as catchy, as easily understood as possible. If you give a very complex, dry title, it's possible many people may not even look at the article, even though the contents of the article might be quite interesting and profound. Don't forget, of course, to also give some thought to the abstract of the article. Very, very important, because a lot of the time, busy readers will only look at the abstract. And if they find that the abstract is off-putting, then they may not proceed to read the article at all. And of course, storytelling is a very important skill, which will have to be weaved into all these, or into any of the articles that you might produce. So in terms of a general structure for a research article, there are certain things which are common to almost all journals. And essentially you have, as I said, a catchy title and an abstract. And many journals also ask for keywords. Again, you have to be careful. Don't simply choose keywords at random, because you know that keywords are important when it comes to automated classification of articles. The inclusion of keywords matters a lot when it comes to searching, and so keywords are very important. And then, of course, there is in many articles a section on acknowledgements. This is quite important. It is where you acknowledge the individuals who do not qualify for co-authorship, but who have contributed to your article intellectually, financially, or in some other manner. And they do deserve credit So when you acknowledge someone in your academic text, it gives you more integrity as a writer, as it shows that you are not claiming other academics' ideas as your own. It can also, of course, aid your readers in their own research journeys. When you come to the body of the article, then of course you need to have a good introduction, and then you get into the meat of the article, which is the main body, where your arguments, your evidence, and all such important matters are located. And each paragraph will encapsulate a different notion, and there'll be a clear linking between each paragraphs. And I would say as well that, subheadings are very useful so that you do good signposting. And then you come to the penultimate part of your article, which is usually the conclusions. And your conclusion should be an interpretation of your results, where you summarize all of the concepts that you introduced in the main body of the text. And of course, to make sure that there is a rounded assessment of what you have sought to achieve by way of argument in the article. You should not introduce any new concepts into this section. I sometimes see authors bringing in completely new things which do not find any place in the main body of the article. That is unacceptable. And finally, of course, in terms of the structure, you would include references and citations. These should be well balanced, current, and relevant. And of course, each field is different from the other, but you should aim to cite references that are not more than 10 years old, if possible. And of course, your article addresses a historical issue. I'm talking particularly about humanities and social sciences. The studies that you cite should be strongly related to your research question. There's no point in simply throwing in all kinds of references. A couple of other writing tips. You should always aim for a manageable size. But of course, keep in mind the requirements of the target journal, because as you know, the word limits vary between journals. Most European journals tend to be quite conservative in terms of allowing a maximum of 10,000 words, usually probably shorter. But then you go to the American journals, many of which are very happy to give you 20,000 words or 25,000 words. So it all depends on the journal you're targeting. And of course, you need to create a coherent story or coherent argument. And the argument must be made self-standing. Although, of course, you'll have to supplement the argument with your evidence and with your views. You should ideally also aim to target the journal's readership. And of course, you may have to change the writing conventions from that used in your thesis or any work that you may have previously done. So those are, if you like, general tips which would certainly help. I see that I'm coming quite close to the end of my time, so I'll wrap up by just saying a word or two. Essentially, of course, you need to do a lot of preliminary reading and also record keeping, about which I've not spoken, but that is important as well. You need a mind map or an outline. And there's an element of craftsmanship which goes into formulating a thesis, which you will only acquire as you gain experience. And similarly with researching. And of course, drafting also usually improves with time and experience. Sometimes you'll have to spend a lot of time revising your draft article, but that's all right. It doesn't matter if you have to put in that amount of time, because ultimately that'll make your article look better. and I've already told you about references. Maybe I'll just say a sentence or two about the covering letter, which sometimes goes with the article. So I suppose you would, instead of making your covering letter very flowery, make it quite concise and to the point. So you start your cover letter by stating why you think the paper is good, or is suitable for the journal that you're targeting. And also, the covering letter is an opportunity for you to include additional background information that is relevant, but which does not fit into the abstract or any other part of the article. And of course, you should focus on answering why you think the question you set out to address is important, and why what you've said you find exciting. Now, this is because you want to attract the attention of the editor, and inform the publication if there's any controversy or competition that the editor must know about. And do not include the abstract, a list of past accomplishments, details of meetings, etc., where you presented this work, because that would be superfluous. When you are engaging in co-authorship, you need to follow certain norms, and in particular, you need to be quite fair in the way that you give credit for your co-authors. I don't have too much time to go into this, although there are many aspects of this which are worth talking about. And finally, I want to say a word or two about what is a high impact journal, because nowadays impact seems to be the buzzword. So the impact factor is something that you need to pay attention to. It's a measure of readership, although of course the impact factor is not, in my view, the only important thing. It is possible that there may be a journal which is quite prestigious, but which does not necessarily have an impact factor that is comparable with some other journal that you may have in mind. But impact factor is quite important. So that is roughly what I wanted to tell you about in the short time that I've had, because I do want to leave time for Q&A. And so I will conclude here by once again thanking the organizers for the opportunity that I've been given to address you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Venkat. I just have one quick thing to share with all, and then we'll go on to the question and answer session. And for this, I need to share my screen, so I'll quickly go on to it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm unable to. Anyway, I think we can quickly go on to our Q&A session. So the floor is open for the questions. If anyone would like to have any thoughts, or do you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
I will quickly launch the Zoom polling as well for the session. Meanwhile, you can poll and then you can type your comments in the chat or any questions. You can also raise your hand and I will unmute you if you want to say anything. Dr. Sharoon, you can share your screen. You have the rights. Can you see again?
I see. I can try that.
Yeah.
I see some error, so it's fine. I think.
Try now. I have again shared the host rights. Let's see. We have 44 participants who have responded to the polling so far, and we have 71 participants who have joined. So you're all requested to please poll. We have a comment from Air University, Dr. Nashina Tariq. She says, thank you for such nice webinar. No questions. We have Dr. Mead from the Department of English. Thank you, Dr. Sharoon, Dr. Saqlain, and Dr. Venkat, and CLT for such an informative sessions. Also, hearty congratulations on successful completion of the research seminar. Thank you so much, Dr. Mead. Ms. Aisha Teek says, thank you. We have Mr. Raja from Ziauddin University. Hi, he is asking about that high impact factors has a lot of publishing charges. How to handle that? If we can't afford, what is advantage and disadvantage of open access and close-ended publications?
Can I answer that?
Please do, sir.
Yes, go
Please.
ahead.
Okay. So this is something which has been engaging my attention in a very serious way for the last few months. Like many other journals, my journal has also been warned about the possibility of having to go into open access in the near future. I personally believe that it is not a welcome development at all, because as was pointed out by Raja, there is a serious problem which disadvantages contributors from the developing world. To my mind, it is quite unacceptable that only those who can afford the very high fees, and in the case of my journal, I believe it is something like £3,000, which is a lot of money, even for people living in advanced countries. So I have been arguing very strongly for the present system to continue, so that we have a good mix of contributors from the north and the south. Unfortunately, it looks as if it is going to be a losing battle, because we are being told that the move towards open access is only accelerating. My advice would be, first of all, to any researcher to wait and watch. It is possible that if enough pressure is brought from the developing world, that the people behind the open access campaign will think again. And don't forget that unless there are contributors of articles, then the publishers are not going to be able to sell anything. So they will have to depend on people who write articles, both from the north and from the south. So first of all, do that. Secondly, I understand that some publishers are offering subsidies for these charges, and these charges are called APCs, author publishing charges. So yesterday, somebody told me that, for example, Cambridge University Press has started a fund which can be used by people who cannot afford the APCs to subsidize the charges. To my mind, it doesn't make sense at all, because imagine a publisher giving you money to give back to them. How does it work? Ultimately they are profiting, except that they are pretending to be charitable and giving you some money. And in any case, the model, I don't think, is going to succeed. The real problem seems to be that the subscription deals are falling apart. In fact, the traditional model on which all journals have worked is falling apart. But all I can say at the moment is the situation is not completely clear. So please wait. And also, if you have a choice, go to another publication that does not insist on open access. Now, it is possible that sometimes you may have to make a small sacrifice. It may not be a very high impact journal, but so what? You'll at least get your work published without having to suffer the hardship of having to fork out several £1,000s. Thank you.
I would like to add to it that these are two different things. One is mandatory APC, one is mandatory publishing fee, and the other thing is the optional open access. And believe me, 90% of the most prestigious publishing companies they give you free submission, that you can submit your articles for free and they will be published, and they won't charge any APC. It is just less than 10%. Like MDPI is an organization that asks for uh, publishing charges. Now, more than 90% of the times, like I can name, like American Physical Society, like Royal Society of Chemistry, American Chemical Society, mostly elsewhere, Springer, Nature, you can submit your papers for free, and if they are accepted, they will be published without any APC. Now, the other thing is, now every journal asks that if you want the open access to your articles, then you will have to pay some publishing fee. And if you just want to go for regular subscription, you 90% of the times you do not need to pay. And I'm telling you, always go with the prestigious publishers, and they won't ask you any publishing fee. If you want, just go for the regular standard submission and standard publication. But if you have some money and you want to go for open access, and because naturally open access gives more access to the readers, your article is accessible more and more people, so that gives you a benefit in citation index, which is very important. But otherwise, what I've seen, 99% of the researchers, they submit their articles for the standard subscription, which is actually does not require any publishing fee. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I just add a little bit to that? Saqlain is absolutely right. At the moment, luckily, the concept of open access is not at all universal. In other words, it is perfectly possible for somebody to still continue to submit without having to pay any charges. But the problem seems to be that the pressure for open access is building up. At least that's what we've been told by all the major publishers. And of course, there's one other very important factor, which is that this varies from discipline to discipline. So it can be different for sciences, for natural sciences, than for humanities or the arts. So I think all we can do is keep an eye out for developments, and also keep the pressure up to continue the existing system.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for your
much.
response. There's another
We
question.
do.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Do you want to take a lead on this?
Sure, sir, I will.
Mhm.
Okay, there's a question from Mohammad Hussain from Government College University. Thank you all. He's saying that using AI involves some ethical considerations. Using paraphrasing tools sounds dishonest. Where do we draw the line when using Grammarly to just brush up grammar and fix inaccuracies?
I must say that there is no such thing as ethical considerations in using AI tools, because the research article that is published, that is not testing your language skills. You can hire some company. You can send your article to some native speaker, and they will edit your article and polish your article, and they will charge like $500. I do it every day. But if somebody is using artificial intelligence, you can do it for free. So your journal's publishing process is not about where are you getting your language edited or improved. It just says, most of the time, the prestigious journals, they ask for that your article must have been run through some native speaker. Mostly today, this is in vogue actually, because there's a difference between native style and non-native English. Particularly the American and British journals, they always recommend that your article must be edited by some native speakers. So for that purpose, if you don't have money to hire some firm, a language firm, you can go for AI, you can go for Quillbot, you can go for Grammarly, and you can use these tools to polish the English language. Actual thing is the content, what the journal, what the editor is concerned about. Your content must be original and genuine. Where you are getting your article proofread and edited, it does not concern. It must be well-written article. You can use artificial intelligence tools, or you can send it to me.
I would like to add to it, and I totally agree with what Dr. Saqlain has shared, because when we talk about like defining a fine line, then truly you believe in, it comes from inside, not something from outside. Yes, there are ethical guidelines available all over, but as a researcher, you always know if you are deviating from the basic human ethics, basic guidelines of ethics. So yes, there are sources available that you can use, you can manipulate, and you can use them to generate things and use them ethically and non-ethically as well. So as a researcher, that's the responsibility, that what you do should be done ethically. So whether you're getting help from AI tools, you should know this, that it's you who have to draw a limit, that okay, as a researcher, I have to develop this fine line there, that if I go past beyond this, that's not something my contribution, but I'm using contribution for someone else. So you always have to put the fine line by yourself. You can't ask anyone to put this line, because everyone will have their own very relative measures for ethics and these kind of lines. Dr. Venkat, would you like to add something to it?
No, in fact, I would quite strongly support what you've said. And, ultimately, there are many pathways to achieving a degree of proficiency in the writing of articles. And I would say, quite frankly, that apart from everything that you've said, that to a large extent, people need support from their peers and from their mentors. And I have personally found this extremely helpful. Even if you become a very senior researcher, there is still room for consulting colleagues. And, you are able to actually improve both the content and the presentation of your articles through either formal or informal consultations with colleagues. So that is what I would say. In fact, there's another question which also sort of relates to this, which is, with no prior research publication, how should one plan our research journey? Should we start with participation in research conferences or aim directly for research journals? Again, everything depends on what stage of your research journey you are on. So some people may be beginning very much at the lowest rung of the ladder. Now, in those circumstances, they will need a lot of support. And I'm happy to see that organizations like CLT are already providing this, although, of course, this is a one-off thing. This is not a permanent one. It's not a continuing one. But it is helpful. Now, of course, you may have come across people, even when you join a webinar, who might be willing to help you and become your mentors. So I think peer support as well as mentorship is very important, not just within your own organizations, which of course would make sense, but also sometimes outside. And I would say actually that's a very good idea to keep an eye on people who write well in your discipline and get in touch with them. You lose nothing. At the most, you may not get a reply. But very often in my experience, people are kind-hearted. They are willing to encourage. Even very senior professors sometimes take the time and trouble to respond to emails from very junior researchers. And luckily, the internet has made it possible to do this across national boundaries. So you don't only have to think about your own country. You can certainly write to someone outside your country and sometimes also collaborate with them, so that your first 2 or 3 papers may be co-authored. You may not be the sole author. So in that respect as well, you are able to achieve your objectives. But more importantly, you also build your confidence during that process, which is very important.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
I would like to add to this question regarding that you do not know anything about the prior research. I conducted a session exactly 1 week earlier on this topic that was actually reading, writing, and publishing in natural sciences. And it deals precisely the same question, that with no prior research publications, how would you plan your research? Please do watch the recording of that session, and it will give you everything that you want.
Excellent.
Thank you, Dr. Saqlain, for responding to another question that was asked. There's another question: how does a journal calculate its impact factor, and when can we trust the impact factor claimed by a journal?
Can I say this? Actually, impact factor is just the number of citations, average number of citations per unit paper of any journal over a period of 1 year. So it is the just number of citations and the average number of citations per unit article published by any journal. So naturally, the journals having high impact factor will be high in citation. Actually, it's a citation index basically. How many people are citing your article? You're citing one article from a particular journal. So if citations are higher, every citations are higher for a journal, it will be having higher impact factor. And yes, the impact factor is credible because they are published by the very smart and intelligent algorithms, by the interconnected different word libraries like Scopus and ISI Web of Knowledge, and there are different systems that actually calculate these impact factors. And if you're publishing in some reputed organization like ASES, RSI, AIP, or elsewhere, Springer, Nature, you will find that the impact factors are genuine.
Yeah. So I see a couple of thank you notes, and no other questions. So I think this is the right time to call it off. Thank you so much, Dr. Saqlain. Thank you so much, Dr. Venkat. I know you have to leave. It's right 2 p.m. here, so it's right the time that when you have to leave as well. Thank you so much.
Sharoon, Dr. Sharoon,
Gohar.
there is another question, that what is the benefit of higher citation to the author? Higher citation more means that your research is more productive. It is being accessed, it is being read, and then it is being used by many people. So, and every researcher, every scientist has a dream that they always want to gain more and more citations, because it increases, it enhances their credibility as a researcher. More citations means your research is more credible, it is accessible, it is contributing more and more to the particular field, and definitely high quality research will always get more and more citations. So definitely high citations matter in impact factor as well as citations matter. In fact, citations matter more than the impact factor. Thank you.
Can I take my leave? I thank you very much. Thanks to all of you, and all the best. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Venkat. Thank you so much.
See ya. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everyone. And I certainly miss Dr. Roxana to be here, but I know she is busy somewhere, and she's the one who closes the session on a very high note. So we'll look forward to all of you and fellow speakers as well in the next summer, hopefully. And till then, goodbye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharoon, and thank you very much, all the participants. Thank you.